Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. We're double dipping today, but we've got breaking roster edition class of 2025. ESPN ranks a national number 50 player in the country. Paulo Semedo, a 7'1 forward center, a 4'5 combo, and originally from Angola. Playing last listed I saw at West Oaks High School in Orlando, Florida, which is a little bit interesting, and I'm going to explain that here in a minute. That not a lot by me in terms of knowledge of this player or tracking this player as someone that might be in the wheelhouse for Arkansas to add late. It turns out it is a player with international flavor, but coming out of the high school ranks and have the high school ranks in the United States because he's been ranked again in ESPN's top 100 for the class of 2025. This brings Arkansas to 4 players. Calipari has always said he'll do 3 or 4 out of the high school ranks. His first class that he brought with him from Kentucky was a 3-player class, guards and 1 guard and 2 wings. The signed early November class, Darius Acuff Jr., Malik Thomas, Isaiah Sealy, also guards and wings in a 3-player class. Kareem Artile counts as a freshman, an international player who will turn 20, but he's not out of the United States high school ranks. So this is the first time at Arkansas in year 2 that Calipari has added a class of more than 3 high school players. This also becomes his first front court player addition at Arkansas out of the high school ranks. So everything else has been guards and wings, and we keep talking about who's going to be that first guy. And it's class of 2025, Paulo Semedo. Paulo, Paulo, last name Semedo. Paulo Semedo, again, originally from Angola. His dad played professionally there. His mom, I'm told, was a professional volleyball player. He's listed at 7'1", 225. He looks real thin. I just tweeted out some highlights. I haven't been able to see a whole lot on him. I wanted to come on here, but he reminds me of a similar to Mobley. Is it Eric Mobley that plays? Has been an all-defensive player in the NBA. I think Defensive Player of the Year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Began his, he played his college ball with his brother at Southern California. Prior to Eric Patrick Melsman taking over that program years ago. But he reminds me of that kind of player, lanky, but you see all of the soft skills, being able to put the ball on the deck like Mobley can, get to the basket. Obviously, rim protection is something that factors in. 7'1", 225. I've heard several things about his wingspan. I've seen it listed at 7'5". I had someone with that's familiar with him just send me a direct message saying, I think his wingspan is actually 7'8". So you never know about those things. We'll probably find out what's more accurate as we move along. But at 7'1" with a 7'5" to 7'8" wingspan, he's definitely gonna be the chart topper at Arkansas now. We know Trevor Brazil's listed at 6'10" with a 7'4" wingspan. So 7'5" beats that. And he's 7'1". ESPN again ranks him 50th in the country in class of 2025. And so when you count your 2 5-star guards rated top 10 or just outside the top 10 in terms of Malik Thomas, now you've got the 50th ranked player. You also have Isaiah Sealy, who ESPN ranked 68th or 67th, somewhere in that range. So you've basically got 4 players, your heaviest high school class so far for Calipari at Arkansas. And it is going into year 2, but 3, obviously 4, all 4 of your players are ranked inside the top 70, specifically when you look at ESPN's rankings. 247 Sports did not have a ranking for him. I did not check Rivals or On3 before I came on. And sometimes we see that with players that have come to stateside. We keep talking about class of 2026, 7'1", Arafine Diane, who Arkansas has prioritized. And some of the services still haven't really caught up with him in terms of a ranking. 247 has him as the number 1 center in that class, ranked top 25. Again, this young man ranked 50th according to ESPN. One thing I'll tell you, the interesting thing about West Oaks High School in Orlando, and something that caught my eye, Calipari had been in Arkansas very briefly. And he's one of those guys, if he's invited to a lot of these coaching clinics, and he attends some of those, including in-state since he's been here, out of the gates. but I believe it was right after he took Arkansas's job. And I noticed he went to this mega camp where a lot of the top level Division I coaches were taking turns, doing some tutorials on the court. And I saw a video snippet of his portion of that, and it was at West Oaks High School in Orlando, Florida. This was just about a year ago, maybe not even that long. It's been, but I think it was last year. I think it was before the calendar turned the page from 2024 to 2025. So I think it's interesting that Calipari is the greatest high school recruiter of all time. I say it all the time. To add a top 50 player this late, okay, that's solid. And we can talk how that fits on the next roster, what we can envision for him in terms of playing time, all that. But just for now, I kind of zero in on, it seems like I always say this about Calipari: when he moves around and goes to different things, he'll sometimes put out photos on his Twitter account. Hey, I saw friends when I was here. And he's multitasking. There's more than one thing going on. And so I just have a feeling him being on that campus and a part of that, and knowing as much as about him and his staff and how they recruit the high school level, that some of these moves sometimes can be connected. And you just never know, what conversations were had when he was there a few months ago about a player that was either already there or incoming, in Arkansas being involved in that process. This completely snuck up on me. I'm not even going to pretend to know that Arkansas was heading in this direction. Because I don't do that. I tell you what I know, what information I have. Usually I'm out in front of most of it. The international stuff, we've been getting good information. That is my biggest weakness when it comes to, being out in front. But even this one, the last 2 days was Jovic, who I don't see factoring into the rotation. And most of the late back end ads aren't guys that are necessarily on your radar. This might be a little different in terms of, could you actually use this guy in year one? Will he be part of the two deep rotation? I need to learn more about where he is in his development. In the brief conversation I had with someone right before I came on here, the one that suggested he might have a 7'8" wingspan, the idea is his versatility at that size. There are things he can do. And I mentioned the comparison to Mobley with the Cavaliers, sort of that slender build, but stronger than he looks, and can put the ball on the deck, can stretch the floor a little bit with shooting, and he's listed as a 4 or 5, not just as a center. And so maybe there's some soft skill stuff there where he could help you at the 4 a little bit and get some minutes behind Trevor Brazile. Now, Arkansas, the top 8 is the top 8. And what this also doesn't help me know is, was this a plan in place in case the resolve situation looked untenable? Or with Calipari now up to 14 players on this roster, he's packed it with 14 now, because Jovic yesterday coming off the board was 13th. Today, this is the 14th player. And I said yesterday that Elmir Jovic would be more at the back end, maybe not even as high up the ladder in terms of how I see it coming in. And as a guy like Kareem Artal, I'd have Sealy maybe slotted ahead of those guys. This is a guy I'm not so sure about. I'm not so sure that he can't help you and be, maybe he and Sealy alternate based on needs as your 9th guy, and they're your 9th and 10th guy and playable dudes at some point. And I think a lot of that also is going to depend on, what he shows when he arrives. Arkansas has already into summer session 1. They've already, just slowly getting into the on-court stuff, so he's not going to miss a whole lot there. I'm assuming he's going to be available sooner rather than later. I don't know what would be outstanding for him in terms of extra stuff, because he's already probably got most of that stuff resolved if he's been playing high school here. When you start talking visas or whatever other hurdles and you got to jump over and hoops you got to jump through. So, maybe this was a path of least resistance in terms of getting someone in there that you might be able to use this year. Again, I need to learn more. I need to learn more about this player, the quality of it. A top 50 ranking is great. Cyril Somptu last year, when you look at Calipari's signed class for Kentucky, now they're different kind of players, and that guy's already built bigger than a lot of college players, but a 6'11" guy, real athletic, ranked 50th in the country, I believe, played at overtime elite with Carter Knox. Now, obviously, Calipari didn't bring him with him to Arkansas, and he played in a rotation role off the bench for an NCAA tournament Georgia team last year, Somptu Cyril. But ratings-wise, it's very similar. And when you project ahead for a guy this versatile, I mean, if he's not an immediate help in an 8 deep rotation that's half retention and grown men and older dudes, if he's not immediate help there with a major role, you got to figure by year 2 he's someone that's really going to be helping out, if not in year 1. And so it's too soon for me to say for sure, okay, this guy certainly slots in to give you a dependable top 9 now. Again, I would maybe put him in the same group of a Seeley. Now, there's more need for depth on the playable depth on the front line. I don't think Javits added that by getting him yesterday. I just don't think so. I think he's kind of on the outside looking in terms of really being someone you would use. But maybe this guy is. Javits the center, and you could say, well, he's Arkansas's third center. Well, I see 3 guys on the front line that would play minutes, even in times of foul trouble and injury, before he'd ever see the court, with Brazil, a guy that can slide over and play the 5. So he's really kind of your 4th choice if that's all you had. This is another wrinkle here. Not a 19-year-old, but maybe brings enough to the table where you could again use him, and he fits in to help you with depth needs, playing off the bench back in Trevor and Brazil at the 4 spot. So we just need to see and learn more about this. Again, not a whole lot of time to do homework on this one because I'm doing a little bit before I jumped on here after the fact. Yeah, it looks like he gets up the floor well, still has a few pitches and quirks. 7'1" guy at that age, he's still learning how to play the game, but there's some stuff I liked about him. He could put it on the floor a little bit. Again, one source I have is already saying there's some versatility aspects to him that makes him a very attractive player. I also did not go and look around unbiased Brim. Thank you, Brim. Yeah, I like your comments. Both of those comments attribute to Brim. I like the fact that Calipari went back to the high school ranks. Don't be bashful about that. You've already got veteran retention. You've got 2 bigs out of the portal. Six of your players, 6 of your top rotation are straight out of, veteran experience out of the high major level. You got the 2 5-star guards that we know are going to factor in your top rotation. And so, bringing one more, if this player does represent your 9th man, let's say, and you're back up at the 4 who's going to play and have some kind of a role, not knowing yet what the minutes would be, you're still 2/3, if you add up the math in your top 9, 2/3 of that are veteran guys. And Calipari has always said, I just don't need to be half my roster or more of just babies, freshmen, young players, inexperienced dudes. So this doesn't shake that, it doesn't, shame Calipari on his talking point that he's contradicted himself. Not at all. And it's jumping the gun a little bit to even assume right now that this is a guy that's going to plug in there and be that guy. If Calipari were to say, okay, this is my 14th ad, and I'm still going after a veteran international guy, whether it's Resolve or someone else that could factor in to that 4 spot and give you your 9-player 2 deep rotation that way, and this guy's just also on the outside, it means that he has changed course a little bit from what he did last year outside his top 9, because none of those guys were really development guys. They weren't really guys other than being bodies in practice and being in the locker room and that were ever going to play. We know that. But if you add a more veteran person to this roster that can be in the 2 deep, that means guys like Seeley and this Paulo Semedo and potentially Kareem Artal are all development guys that you might see the court at some point for you, even if only sparingly this year, but maybe more increases your ability to have retention going into year 3 under Calipari. Javits, you could put him in that group as well as developmental. He certainly, to me, seems like that. I just see a long way to go for him to be playable depth, and maybe year 2 for him. I'm not sold on that. But someone like this, if not this year, Paulo Semedo, I would think by next year. And again, we'll see what the value is. We'll see what he brings to help this Arkansas team. 15 minutes in, I'm Kevin McPherson. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. This is a live reaction segment to Arkansas adding a top 50. ESPN ranks him the 50th player in the country. Paulo Semedo, 7'1", 225 is what ESPN lists him at. And again, I've been told anywhere from 7'5" to a 7'8" wingspan. I'm not, I haven't had a chance to measure it myself to know for real what's real. Either way, it's elite. And he moves well. Again, he moves well for a guy that tall. And he can put the ball in the deck from what I've seen, and that's helpful. And you got to think there's some real rim protection elements here. Let's not forget Big Z, who was on your squad last year, was a 7'1" guy that brought some unique, I won't call him a unicorn, but some unique aspects, certainly the three-point shooting. There were a lot of trouble areas in his game that made it, we know what the positives and negatives were. So at minimum, of course, he had 15 games as a freshman before he played at Arkansas, freshman experience the year before at Kentucky. This isn't quite the same, but it gives you a guy that, in a sense, reminds you of Big Z because of some of the unique stuff at his size and length in that you can develop. And again, Kenny Payne, you're putting Kenny Payne to work here with these last two additions. Kenny Payne already, we can give him some of the credit for the turnaround, can't we? I mean, he's the front line mentor. Can we give him some of the credit for some of the transformation we saw at the end of the year for Trevor Brazile? Can we check boxes that he's going to be part of the plan on getting guys like Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle even maybe take another step and help Arkansas be as good as it can be on the front line and as good as it can be as a team? And now you bring in some developmental stuff that you might even use in year one. Again, I'm not at a place doing this live reaction to know for certain, oh, this cinches it. This is your ninth guy. He's your backup to Trevin. It could be that that's how it turns out. I need to know, though, that Arkansas is certainly putting down the international scene to get another frontline piece. When we were on this morning, we still had sources telling us they thought Rezov would still be in the works for Arkansas, just getting through, clearing those hurdles on what it's going to take, even if it takes a while to get his visa and whatever other complications there are that are maybe slowing that down or potentially prohibiting it at some point. And I pondered, does this mean you play the long game and patient? Do you move on to another experienced guy that can fill in there, or move on, period? Because you're trying to get this done. I don't think Calipari's just going to reach on a guy. I don't think Calipari's just going to reach on a guy. But at the same time, as a late ad, you can't just say, well, this locks it up and makes it certain that this is the quality depth that you need at that 4 spot. Again, I'm saying it both ways. We need to find out and learn more about it and see if it can project that way. But at minimum, you've got a guy that, is good enough to be considered a top 50 player in the country by at least one recruiting service. And you've got a staff that's, I don't think did this lightly. I think this might have been a decision that they're looking ahead, if not in 2 years, if not this upcoming season. All right, we're nearly 20 minutes in. It's Kevin McPherson. It's HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Appreciate you being here. If you haven't done it already, please hit subscribe, like, and share. Mika Murnin, someone saying, I'm guessing MM not going to be a Razorback. I mean, they might still be recruiting him for 2026. You just don't know. So that's unknown. It also could be that they, NIL. Let's think about it. You always said this with Calipari. He's not going to overspend in NIL for anybody. And that goes to the highest rated guys, to guys that you're going, okay, how much NIL will this guy command? Well, I guess this guy is probably a much smaller. Get Mika Murnin to reclass, fast track him to the NBA. You may not, we've always said no one they're adding is going to be taking over the starting role at the 4. The NIL offer is going to be, reflective of the envisioned role. And if you're envisioning a backup kind of guy, this comes at a better value, and you may get enough out of him what you might need if he is going to be your backup to Trevin. Again, I don't know what the plan is here for this guy. If it's more looking ahead, and mostly what it probably is anyway, or if there's a real plan for him in year one, slotting at the 4 as a backup. I just, I'm skeptical to go that far and say that's what will happen, but I'm not ruling it out either. I just need to learn more about it and think more on this. All right. Again, 20 minutes in. Appreciate those who have commented. I don't get around to getting a whole lot of those because I have to squint and I can't see anyway. But we'll go since we're in the heart now with it. We've got the College World Series off and going. We got the Diamond Hogs tomorrow at 6. I'll use a baseball analogy. I'm like the guy at bat that already had 1 strike and he had 2 fastballs, and I just sat there and watched him whiz by and get called strikes. Javich and now Semedo, Arkansas's 2 most recent additions to the roster, they went right by me. I didn't see those coming, and kudos for the staff for filling up the roster. You got one more spot. So the question becomes, is it another back into the roster kind of guy, another not going to factor in type, or is it going to be some veteran guy, maybe international guy, like we've been talking about, to slot in and help with your playable two? This is who they really got earmarked for that. We're going to continue to pay attention. Maybe we'll lock on to the next one. If not, we'll see how soon or how long it takes to add. But this is interesting because you went back to the only 2 ads in the portal season, Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle. They ended up being announced on the same day, and now you've gone so long with a lot of noise about other players in the portal that never happened, and the staff backed away from that. And they went back to the formula of getting them announced quickly, and they're both guys. I mean, effectively, what you did after your retention in your early signing period, where it was again high school players, mostly guards and wings, you've gone strictly front line. 2 out of the portal, and 2, 1 from international ball, 20-year-old, and now 1 out of the high school ranks. And again, your first high school front court player that you've added to the roster now going into year 2 under John Calipari. Appreciate everybody. I don't know that we'll have any more breaking news today, so it's going to be, I've got a lot of stuff to go through tomorrow. I'll try to gather more information about this scenario so we can talk more about it tomorrow. Thank you for being here with me. Until next time, appreciate all of you. Take care of yourselves. See you soon.